All right, guys, welcome to week 2 of the Summer Intermittent Fasting Challenge. Today, I have a special guest on, Katie, who is a winemaker in Missouri, and she's actually going to be sharing her top tips, especially around social situations and what she's used to help her achieve her goals and maintain them while still enjoying social life as well. Especially after a lot of us had a long weekend if you're in the US. So we probably all could use some of these tips. Maybe I should have had her on last week, actually, to talk a little bit about this. But before we dive into the interview, this is week 2 of the Summer Intermittent Fasting Challenge. I got a lot of emails and messages from people on Instagram as well asking if they could join late because they're on like a holiday or vacation. Absolutely. We're like a very welcoming group. Feel free to join us. We're in week 2. We still have 5 more weeks of the Summer Intermittent Fasting Challenge with the brand new meal plan and lots of exciting stuff. So feel free to join us. All the details are listed down description below for the new 6-week summer meal plan, as well as for the 6-week summer challenge. All right, now today, question of the day, actually, where are you guys tuning in from? So let me know in the chat. I know we have some people in like Germany. I saw someone from Japan the other day, which was really cool. I'm not sure how the time difference is though. So today we have Katie. So Katie's actually been part of the AENpeeps, has done literally every single challenge from the very beginning. So I don't know, what is it, like 20 challenges at this point? And every time she learns a little bit more and gains more tools to help her along her wellness journey. So she's been doing this for a long time. I wanted to bring her on so that she could share her tips, especially given that she is in an industry where it is very social. So I'm going to be introducing Katie if I can figure out the tech. Let's see. All right.
Hi, everybody. And Autumn, thanks for having me today. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. So you want to tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, my name's Katie. I live in the Midwest, and I met Autumn when she started her first challenge back in, I think, like 2018. So ever since, I've just and you said it best, I've been learning every year something new and different about my body or what fuels me in the best, especially in social situations, which is what we'll talk about today. So
yeah. So let's actually dive into that. Let me bring this little screen back on. All right. So like I mentioned, Katie has a lot of really great tips. She has been part of the AENpeeps for a long time. She's also been a client. So we've talked a lot about these one-on-one too, on what will best help her situation. But I think these can be really great for a lot of us, and being able to apply this to a bunch of different situations and feel like you can have that good balance. So we have Katie's first tip, which is plan it as your treat meal. What do you mean by that, Katie?
I think it's really important when, like this weekend, for example, was a big holiday here in the US. If you're not from the US, it was our Independence Day. So barbecues, cookouts, family gatherings. We had a huge event at our winery this weekend. So it's just a time of celebration, and that is part of living. And I think it's really important not to separate living and enjoying your social life and social gatherings from your health and wellness goals, because really it can be intertwined. So what I like to do is just take like if I typically have 1 or 2 dinners out a week as my treat meal, let's say maybe I'm going to enjoy like a cookie or maybe have some extra potatoes or, a glass of wine with my meal, I like to plan that out. So instead of saying, well, I can't go to this social gathering, or I'm having a hard time figuring out when to go to this dinner because I still have this health goal, or I have this wellness or weight loss goal, I shouldn't do this. No, just plan it in and know that your mental sanity is also part of your health goal. So
Yeah.
by having a treat meal, I feel like it just makes your journey so much more enjoyable, and it's planned so you can enjoy it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And this is actually something from like the very early days of my YouTube channel. I think it was like my 10th video ever out of like the 500 that I have now, where I talk about this one study on how they actually compared people who were on the same exact weight loss journey. And there were those who didn't have a planned treat meal versus those who did have and incorporate a planned treat meal. Not only did the people who had a planned treat meal actually like they were able to maintain their progress, but they actually end up losing more weight in the long run. So there is something to be said about having that balance. And I think just with the like old school diet culture mentality of like, you just need to reduce everything, it makes it not really cohesive with real life and having those celebratory moments as well. So that's a really good point. So let's go on to your second tip. All right. So your second tip, eat a PFF rich meal before. What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So as you always say, protein, fat, and fiber. If you're going to go somewhere and let's say I always think of having kind of three options before I'm going out to a party or social gathering. And it's kind of like, do I want to choose to maintain my protocols? Or do I want to have a little bit of balance where I'm going to choose a good protein, a good fat, and a good fiber at that meal? And then have just, like a small treat or like a half glass of wine or a full, or that final option is, do I want to fully indulge? So I always kind of keep that in the back of my mind, but this is really more tailored to that first one I said. So I want to come in and still meet my protocols, but I want to focus on the people. So if I want to go to this event or gathering, enjoy my surroundings and not be distracted by food or tempted by food, I always like to have, honestly, a full meal. It can be within your eating window. It doesn't have to. You can strategically time it, to suit your day. But just a true meal where I've got, my protein, which for me can be like chicken, fish, beef, a lot of what your meals are. It can even be something like a smoothie that is got the protein, and if it's a little bit lower carbohydrates. I'm someone who's a little bit more sensitive and it's in the evening. I'll focus more on using like nuts as my fiber and for that natural nutty sweetness. And then maybe bulk it up a little bit with some extra fiber, whether that's from the nuts and seeds, or sometimes I add cauliflower rice in the evenings right before I go somewhere. Right now, honestly, because it's so hot here in central Missouri, which is where I live, it's like sometimes smoothies, or it's like 2-a-days is where I'm at right now because it's just so warm. So getting that protein, yeah, it is. It is a scorcher this week. But anyway, so that's kind of what I mean. Just eating a balanced meal that hits all those satiety markers, like you talk about, like peptide YY, CCK, and then that fiber, because the fiber fills you up more quickly in the beginning. But then as the satiety hormones kick in, that's where you get that 3 to 4 hour, hunger cue. So I always like to do that if I want to stay on track and meet my goals. Obviously, if you're going to a dinner, again, you can make the choice not to have this. This is just one tip if you want to stay on track and maybe you just want to enjoy being around the people and not focus on the food.
Yeah. I think it's kind of like what you're saying, a couple different categories where, because I talk a lot about this with different clients where like you have different types of situations where if it's like if you have a lot of business outings, this is something that a lot of my clients who have like very social business type of dinner situations where, or like party, like cocktail parties that they have to go to multiple times throughout the week, where they can't really plan every single night to be that like quote treat, but they still, they still want to not be hungry during that time. You can always pick one of those as your treat and know that you're going to have that treat meal that maybe isn't as in line with your goals, but you really want to enjoy that food.
Yeah.
Totally great. And still, even then, you still want to start off with something that is more protein, fat, and fiber rich. That way you just feel really good and satisfied going into it. You don't feel like you have to eat a whole bread basket right when you get there because you're so hungry. But then there's, also like the situations that you're talking about, where it is more of a celebratory moment. So there's different types of situations when it comes to these social outings, and knowing the frequency that you have to be, exposed to all these different social outings, whether it be you just have a very social life and so you need to balance that out, or social work life, or you just don't, like me, like I go out like once a week, maybe like I go out to dinner and that's a big night. So you just need to know like what that balance is for you and how you're going to handle those non-treat meal days, even though it is still an outing, and have protein, fat, and fiber rich meal before. And then even when you're there, looking for the most protein, fat, and fiber rich options, pretty much anywhere you go, there's always going to at the very least be a protein. So if you can at least choose a protein rich option, you're going to at least be more satiated going into that.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. So next we have creating a contingency plan. So what do you mean by that?
Well, I learned this from you. So if anyone has Autumn's Level Up Guide, this I printed this because I come back to it time and time again. So if anyone doing the 6-week challenge right now, if you don't have the Level Up Guide and you want to kind of keep learning, this plan, like it has grown with me, I think, in over the years. And so you talk about, it's page 74 for anyone who has the plan, but the contingency plan, at first it sounded a little abstract to me. But basically it's knowing the obstacle. So let's say for me, for example, on Friday, we had a huge event at the winery. It started at 5. I knew I would be there till probably 11, 12, 8, in the morning, cleaning, doing that sort of thing. And I wanted to be able to be with people. So again, kind of following that, the second rule we just kind of talked about, I went ahead and had a protein, fat, and fiber meal first before I went to my event, because again, it was the whole social gathering kind of cocktail party work event for me. And so for me, that was something I've learned through trial and error that, there is food there, but sometimes it doesn't always make me feel good to indulge and social. Between anxiety that I get sometimes socially, it just wasn't the best option for me. So like, I kind of just like to write out, okay, I'm going to X. And then I think, how can I approach this? And I just write some solutions on what can I do that would make me feel good, is aligned with my goals. And for me, that was, for example, I'm going to eat dinner before I go to my event. Right. And in the past, there are times where what I wrote down did not work. And I think that this is really, really key. It's okay to fail. And that's the importance of contingency planning. Because if it doesn't work out and you think, wow, there was this beautiful cake I wasn't expecting from my favorite bakery, I've got to have a couple bites. That doesn't mean you failed. Just next time you contingency plan, think, okay, well, have like an if then statement. So if X is here, how would I approach that? Then I will enjoy a couple bites and all is well. And I just get back on track. So it's kind of learning what the situation is, have a planned approach. And if that planned approach doesn't work, just get curious why and kind of strategize on how to approach the same situation, but differently next time.
Right. Yeah. I think that's also a really good point on like being curious about it, because that's almost like looking at it from a scientist perspective as well, because
exactly
in science and research, you're not looking at like, okay, this happened, so the experiment was a failure. You go, okay, like why did this happen in this experiment if it was an unexpected result? And the more that you can ask those questions throughout your whole journey, the less frequently you have to ask those questions, because you start to learn more about yourself and the situations that make you unique, and how to get around those as well.
Yeah. And I think that is
I think some people think that you're a family member of mine. Not.
You can adopt me though.
Both backgrounds look like they're from previous videos. We actually do have kind of similar situations with the, like, what's it called? The waterfall?
Yeah. So yes. Yeah. 100%.
Okay. Anyway, that was a little mini distraction.
It's okay. Also, I see my brother in the chat. Hi, Jordan.
Yeah, I just put him on there too. I figured that was your brother right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're even sharing a lot of your brother's experience too. It looks like he's doing really well.
Yeah. And I think that's a good thing I'll just point out with contingency planning too, and build on, is how we approach social gatherings. We never know who's watching us and who we're impacting.
Yeah.
I think it is really, sometimes we can get really caught up in what is this person going to think, or I'm getting really nervous. I don't want to offend someone else. And I think that's maybe one of the hardest part of social gatherings. But I think we would take a step back, and as long as we're confident in our choice before going somewhere, whatever that choice is, then we're going to be able to have that positive impact on someone else too.
Yeah, that's really true. I know for myself personally, kind of like a side section, but since we're kind of talking about this as well, for myself, like at kind of a fairly younger age, I decided just alcohol did not work for me. I rarely drink anymore at all just because it spikes my anxiety so much.
Mm-hmm.
And especially like when you're in college, that can be so tricky because you feel like the odd man out. But I mean, we actually have a tip coming up soon. Actually, it might be the next one. This exact situation, but it's so true that like it's not necessarily even like social peer pressure, although there can be that. It's feeling like you are letting people down, and I think that some of these tips can also be really helpful for those situations too.
Yeah.
Especially if I'm remembering the order correctly, I think it is the next one. Is it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes. This one was huge for me. When you put this in your notes, I was like, yes.
Yeah.
This got me through my second half of college. All right. Always have water in your hand at a party. So I put on here sparkling water, Spindrift, or Topo Chico. Also, if you have Element too, and this isn't like to be tricky, it's just so you don't have to be, feel weird in these situations. If you don't want to feel like you have to explain yourself, especially if it's alcohol that you aren't really feeling like is part of your journey anymore, or something that you don't really want to be having as much of, having it be almost like a festive like drink option, like the sparkling water, the Spindrift, or Topo Chico, I found really helped me. And then if you have something like Element or some type of like flavored add-on that is also an electrolyte, it changes the color of it. So it can be a little tricky there too. But go on what this means to you.
Yeah. So I actually, believe it or not, so I will say this, being a winemaker, you kind of get the reputation that you drink all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in all honesty, I've learned I am someone that does not always respond well to alcohol either. And so while I enjoy wine, but it is something I definitely plan, it's not something I have all the time. And very much for the same reason, I have learned like at wine gatherings or parties, I'd kind of get FOMO. Like I feel like I'm not having as much fun as everyone else, even though I know I'm going to look forward to waking up and having my coffee the next morning.
Yeah.
Like I have the reward at the end that I see, but in the moment, I want to feel festive. And I've actually been experimenting. Obviously, sparkling water is probably one of my favorites with some lime juice and a little fresh meat. But some non-alcohol and sugar-free or low sugar alternatives that are now on the market. Some are hit or miss, but I've just found, again, and I've done the Element as well, something that isn't just always plain water. I love water, but to get in the mood and just feel like I'm also having an enjoyable experience, I've kind of come to that. The other thing, when I have something in my hand, I always feel like it keeps me from grazing as well. Like if this is mid-afternoon and the snack table is out and you see all the good food and you're like, well, maybe you're not even hungry yet. Just having that water to kind of just keep my mouth entertained. I know that sounds like weird, but like it's something in my hand, something close by. It just kind of helps overcome any cravings or temptations to stay hydrated as well.
You also mentioned like social anxiety a bit too, which I think can also come into play. If anybody does experience some degree of social anxiety, it's like feeling like you're doing something can sometimes like make the social anxiety feel lessened. I know that's a big case for me where like if there's the cheese board, the charcuterie board, like especially
I'm going to stand next to it and just
exactly. Yeah, because it gives you something to do as well. Where having like a drink in your hand, whether it be sparkling water, which is my personal favorite, or Katie has shared on her Instagram, what's the wine that you get where it's like an alcohol-free wine?
Yeah, so there's a couple brands I've been trying. So Surely, like I always think like Jesse makes fun of me. Who's my husband? He's like, surely not. Surely this is not wine. But they're rosé. They have a white and a rosé that I really enjoy. And I think for like an 8-ounce serving of wine, which is actually quite a bit for wine, usually it's about half that for a serving. I think maybe 2 to 4 grams of sugar is there, and it's a fairly clean option. It's pretty much just the alcohol, and they add maybe a little bit of sugar in at the end to just help with the viscosity and the mouthfeel of the wine. Because you do. So what a lot of these wines are doing, which, sorry, this is a complete tangent. They reverse osmosis the alcohol out of the wine. So through that extraction, you do lose some flavor and like mouthfeel, which is very normal once that alcohol is removed. So it's been kind of tricky to find something that tastes good, but also meets my wellness goals. But Shirley has been a brand I've had success with. And there's another one called Bonafide. I think it's 00 is like what's on the wine label. They have a rosé and a red that's actually pretty good, and both low sugar as well.
Yeah. So it's about finding what type of like festive style drink that you can bring to a party or bring to a social gathering if you don't plan on drinking, or if you know that is something that is hindering your overall weight loss or wellness goals, and you want to have an alternative. Having these options and knowing what you actually like is important. Like I mentioned, I love Topo Chico, the lime flavored one, so good. I love Spin Drive. I love just even like making, what's the thing I have? Soda Stream. Like I am obsessed with anything bubbly. So like for me, that works out really well. And especially like a Topo Chico bottle, like looks like a beer. So if you're in that situation, it's just, it feels a little bit more festive than just having a bottle of water. Or in Katie's situation, she does like wine, she does enjoy it. So having an alcohol-free, low sugar option works out really well for you. I'm sure it means you can still have it in like the actual wine glass.
Yeah.
As well. One person Julie pointed out something really good too. So this 4th of July gathering, I chose not to eat desserts and carbs to have wine. So this is actually also really good too, is to choose a thing that you actually really enjoy. Sometimes we just eat things because they're there and we really don't like feel great from it, or it's not really something that we're looking forward to, but it's just there. And we're just in the habit of eating those things in those situations. But, picking the thing that you actually really do enjoy, the thing that you are excited about, like in Julie's situation, wine makes it so that you don't compound all of those things that make you not feel so great and work against your goals, but you still get to have the thing that you enjoy. That was a good tip as well, Julie. Okay. So the 5th tip, and we actually have a bonus tip at the end as well. But the 5th tip that you have is focus on how great you're feeling with your current lifestyle. I think this is huge. So tell us what you mean about that.
Yeah, I think when you're at a gathering, let's say you're choosing not to have the cheesy potatoes or, whatever, and because you're wanting to stay aligned with your health and wellness goals, instead of focusing on why you're not having something, I find being positive and just saying, I just feel really good. This makes me feel good. So I'm just enjoying this today. You don't have to even kind of overthink it. Just say, I'm feeling great. And so I'm just, this is just working for me, and keeping it light versus on the avoidance of what you're doing, I find can be either intimidating for people or maybe make them feel like you're judging them, which is usually never our intent.
Yeah.
So instead of saying like, hey, I feel great. Like my energy is amazing. I'm getting up earlier. I don't have headaches, or whatever positive thing you're feeling from the lifestyle that you're doing, or, choosing to have someone, or let's say, for example, you've done well and then you choose to have a couple bites of brownie because it's your favorite at the end of the meal. And people are like, well, I thought you were eating clean, or, people are just really curious. So instead of having like this defensive mechanism, just say, I love this, just a couple bites and it works for me. Again, keeping things focused on the positive things that are changing in your life and in your health. I feel like it just creates a more, anxious-free experience.
Yeah. Also, like another note on that, on focusing on how great you're feeling with your current lifestyle, I think this is where the journaling can, especially in the beginning, can come into play, because you don't really realize how you felt before until you journal. So until you actually see like, wow, I used to get really bad headaches. I used to have that 3 p.m. energy slump every single day. I used to just not feel great. And now I feel fantastic. Like I want to keep that up. I know how much better I'm feeling. I know how much that's impacted my mood, how my work performance. And then you can, with that knowledge, feel like you are able to balance out those treat meals with feeling really great and and prioritizing the foods that help you feel really great, rather than feeling like you have to always go back to those foods because we have this misconception on what they're actually going to do for us or how they're actually going to make us feel.
Right. It almost creates like this restrictive mindset when you kind of think of it in that aspect.
Right, exactly. So it's rather than, I mean, this can be said for anything, like even staying up late and watching another episode of Netflix. Like what's the new series out right now? The Chris Pratt one. I like binged that this whole weekend.
Oh gosh.
I forget. Terminal Man, is that what it's called?
I don't know.
It's a new Amazon series, and it's
Okay.
really good. And last night it was like 7:00, and it just left off on a cliffhanger. And Trevor and I looked at each other. We're like, we should go to bed. We should go. We know how we're gonna feel if we like watch another episode and we don't stick to our normal sleep patterns. Even though we really want to watch the end of this, like we will feel so much better the next day, and we know that we're going to feel terrible if we stay up and watch another hour of the episode. So it can be said for any type of habit that makes you feel great. It's first of all, being able to experience what it's like to feel great, which that's a big thing that I think is also important to understand. That I think a lot of people don't even know what it feels like to feel great. And so first, to get yourself there, to apply the tactics that help you feel energized, that help you feel like you are on track with your goals, that you're satisfied. Having a good little streak with that, so you know what it's like, helps you to be able to compare what it's like when you don't feel great.
Yeah, so, 100%.
Yeah. And terminal list. Thank you. It's really good.
I was hoping somebody would help because I'm sorry, I could not be.
It's really intense, but it's really good. Okay. So I had a little bonus tip on here as well. This is something that I personally like to do. And it's to bring a healthy appetizer. I just, healthy quotes. But it doesn't have to be something that like, carrots and hummus, which there's not really any protein there. I like hummus as well, but it can be something that seems more enticing. It doesn't have to be like carrots and hummus. It can be like one of my favorite things to bring to any type of gathering or party or whatever is a charcuterie board. Because you have the protein, fat, and fiber all on that plate. Like that's in the new 6-week summer meal plan. That's what one of the meals is based on, is like the charcuterie board like experience. And like everyone loves cheese. So no one's going to be thinking like, ooh, she brought a healthy appetizer. Like I don't want that. But instead you're bringing something that people really love and enjoy, that you love and enjoy. So you don't feel like you're limiting yourself either. And that you have a healthy option for you to get really satisfied from. Because the thing about a lot of different parties or social gatherings is that oftentimes these snacky items are just really refined carbohydrate or refined sugar rich. So it's like, maybe a chips platter with like various dips, or a big kettle corn bowl, or like cookies. It's all of these really sugary or refined carb rich foods that don't have any satiety to it, that you feel really that you could just continue to eat more and more of because you're not actually stimulating your satiety hormones. So strategically placing in an appetizer that everyone will love, you're going to be like the talk of the party by bringing a charcuterie board. Who doesn't love it?
People love it.
Exactly. I have the book you got me where it's like the whole charcuterie board, like designs, which is really fun. But having something that is protein, fat, and fiber rich, at the very least, protein and fat rich. Like let's say, even if you wanted to bring wings, like if you love wings, my husband loves wings, that has at the very least a rich source of protein. It also has a bit of fat on there from the skin. But then you're at least getting some level of satiety and something that is protein rich and that everyone will enjoy. So you do feel really involved with the party. People will love you for bringing that. But it's also secretly something that will really help you with your goals as well.
Exactly.
So are there any favorites you like to bring?
Yeah, so the cheese board is always one. I just noticed in the comments someone mentioned the zucchini boats from the 6-week meal plan they took to a cookout. Awesome idea, actually. Mm-hmm. I also love doing some roasted caramelized vegetables. I find sometimes you either just stuck with like a salad option at a lot of places, or for me, I struggle with dairy. So there might be a lot of dairy options, and that's with vegetables that then makes it hard for me to get that fiber component in, I find. Being in the Midwest, honestly, it's fairly easy to get the protein. We do a lot of barbecue or smoked meats around here. So I usually do pretty good with that. But I always find, for me, in my experience, like finding that a good like balance to the everything in my meal is like that missing vegetable component. So I love doing that, but I do the cheese board quite a bit as well because people just love it.
Right. And that's where, just like what Katie's saying, she doesn't have a problem finding protein. You need to know what your specific situations are, the contingency plan, like you brought up, and knowing what your typical social situations are. Like if you know that like there's typically just the chips and crackers available to you, then that's where getting a great protein appetizer in would be helpful. Or if you know there's plenty of protein, but maybe there's actually not any fat, like let's say it's just a bunch of lean chicken where you don't have any fat, bring a guacamole. Like there's good ways to balance it out to fit different types of situations and make sure that it's still fitting your goals. I saw someone else mention using autumn recipes has completely curbed my cravings, definitely helped with my self-control, and I've developed better eating habits. Yeah, when you really focus on the protein and the fat and the fiber, it does help to just tap into what our body naturally has available to us, which is the satiety hormones. Like why even work against our body when we have this internal system in our body that will naturally curb our cravings for us if we just make sure we eat enough of the right types of foods. And it can be really delicious. Like the zucchini boats. I actually can't find that comment where you said that.
Let's see. It was by Julie Verduzco. I may have said that wrong.
Okay. Well, yeah. So just finding something that you actually enjoy, like for my husband, chicken wings, like for me, a cheese and meat board. There's a ton of different ways to make it really fun and really tasty. You just need to know what you actually like and not try and fit like what I like into what your beautiful appetizer is going to be or what you're going to choose is going to be. Just making sure that it's actually protein, fat, and fiber rich, or at the very least protein and fat rich, because those are the two most important ones to help you feel satisfied. And especially in social situations where there are a lot of, it's a celebratory moment. So there's going to be a lot of likely sugar or refined carbohydrates available. Getting that level of satiety not only will help you to naturally not want to eat as much of those celebratory foods, so you get to enjoy it, but not have to have the whole bowl of chips. But also by having enough of the protein before you eat those foods helps to not make that glucose spike as high. So it's kind of like a double whammy in that sense.
Yeah. And I agree with that so much. Not to interrupt you, but having like that satiety, you just feel so nourished. I can't explain it other than you just feel so good that you really don't even need anything. Like food is the farthest thing from your mind because you feel good.
Yeah. And it's like a lot of people when they first start, and Julie just popped this up. It's autumn sauerkraut, zucchini boats, and cut bite size along with fresh fruit and whipped cream. The homemade whipped cream, like just fresh whipped cream without any sugar, maybe put in a little vanilla extract. That's like our absolute go-to dessert in this household. But yeah, like what Katie's saying, where food is the furthest thing from your mind. I think a lot of people don't even really understand what that means until you've experienced this, because so many of us are used to eating really small, non-satiating meals that also don't have the protein that's needed to feel satisfied. Like this is one thing I've said in my video so many times. No one believes me until they experience it, until they actually, especially if you're used to like the grazing throughout the day, eating 6 to 8 meals throughout the day, and thinking like, how could I possibly go anywhere without having like a granola bar in my bag, or, like having the chocolate chips while I'm making my dinner. Once you actually strategically create your meals around, like okay, said, the PFF, protein, fat, and fiber, and get enough for your specific body's needs, it's such a game changer where your satiety hormones are so raised that you don't need to be eating every hour or so. You feel really satisfied. You have so much more brain space for thinking of literally anything else other than where's my next food coming from, or where's my next snack coming from. I'm going to be a hangry monster if I can't get something in the next 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I saw some questions on here. Dave, this is so true. Can get really creative with fresh mozzarella. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. Like a lot of foods that are rich in protein and fat can seem decadent, even though they are supportive of your weight loss and wellness goals. There's actually, I've talked about this quite a bit, and I have a video coming out soon about it as well, on how they found that full fat dairy products were actually inversely related to obesity. So that means like, you know, the people who ate the most full fat dairy products were actually the least likely to be obese. And the researchers were, you know, theorizing that it's likely because the full fat dairy products, not the low fat, had both the protein as well as the fat to make them feel satisfied. Okay. So if you guys want to throw some questions in the chat, I think I saw a few on here already. But while we get to those, like I mentioned, this is the 6-week summer challenge. We're in the second week right now. So I know today's Tuesday, but it feels like a Monday. Since we but so we are in the second week. But if you want to join us, there's a lot of AENpeeps who are just starting today. And that's perfectly fine. You are still part of the challenge if you start today. All the details are linked down description below, especially with this new meal plan. Like it really focuses on the protein component. And I've just found for so many people that this is such a missing component. If you can just get this down and get a full understanding of not only how much protein you need, but high quality sources of protein, it's an absolute game changer in terms of your cravings, hunger level, obviously, but those really are two separate things, cravings and hunger, and just being able to achieve the body composition goals you're looking for, all of that. So I went a little crazy with all of the information in this one. I love this meal plan for that reason, because it does have so much additional information to build on the other programs as well. And it's a limited release, so make sure you guys grab that if you haven't already. It's linked down description below. Once you have it for life, but it is only available throughout the challenge for purchase. Okay, so I think I saw some questions come through while I was showing that. Hang on, let me make this. Oops, I have no idea what just happened there. There it goes. All right, let me see. Any additional tips that you have, Katie, like for or like words of wisdom?
Yeah, actually, I saw it in the comments that came through too. Having just a support system, I think, I don't know, I'm sure, hopefully, if people don't know, but probably most people in our chat do know about your Facebook group. It is such a supportive and encouraging group of people. And just, you can always pop questions in in the community, because I feel like people can give you good ideas and help you think outside of the box. I think starting intermittent fasting in and of itself can feel really overwhelming. And it did, years ago for me. But again, the important thing is remember to keep learning and don't view it as a diet, because this is your life that you're living. And the goal is optimal health and wellness. I mean, we want you to have the weight loss and we want you to feel good in that process. And the minute we let something like restrictive or fear of going somewhere impact our life, it just takes the enjoyment out. And I feel like it makes you want to stop or quit doing good things for your health. And I find like especially with your programs, we're focusing on eating real and delicious food. And I will have people say like, you eat that much fat? Like because I feel like maybe even there's still a lot of cultural stigmatism around eating quality protein and fat meals. It's like you said, sometimes it's just the lean chicken and then just the broccoli or just the salad. But we can add avocado, we can add olive oil, we can add the dairy or nuts, seeds, whatever suits you to feel satiated. And I just want to encourage people to trust their instincts on what they feel like they need. And again, thinking about as well, like it's not necessarily what you and how you've talked about, like it's not just about the fasting window, but it's also about what you're eating. And we forget like we have to eat to sustain our life, and we need to fuel our body. So sometimes that might mean, another thing I know that was hard for me, believe it or not, is eating more to feel satiated, because I'm not grazing at a meal. So in the beginning, that felt awkward if I maybe felt like I had to go back and get some more protein on my plate or add a little bit more of the fiber component to really feel full, because I was used to eating more smaller meals through the day as well as the people that were around me. So when they would see like this nice nourishing meal, whether that was like, one of the meals from your plans or just at a cookout where I've got my meat and my veggies, and then I'm going to go for a couple of tablespoons of, whatever fat component is there to kind of make my plate.
Yeah.
It can be shocking for people. So I kind of had to face that. That was a challenge too, that I never anticipated seeing, eating until you're satiated.
Yeah. One thing that maybe hasn't been as much of a barrier for you, since I know you cook a lot at home and you really love cooking, but I have seen this with so many of my clients and so many of the AENpeeps, is that they think that they can't achieve their goals because they have to go out to eat quite frequently, or because they don't know how to cook or they don't like to cook. And there are, obviously I have the restaurant guidelines in the programs for that exact reason. But this is something that I'll do with my clients, where we go, especially if they are, like going to a lot of places frequently, like they have their 3 to 5 main spots that they always go to. They're always shocked by, when we actually go through the menu, how we can pretty much give them the exact meal that they want, just make some slight alterations and still have it support their goals and still have them feel really great. Like, obviously, if you can cook at home, you have so much more control. I love to cook, but I know that's not the case for everyone, especially the type of lifestyles a lot of people have where they have to travel a lot. But it is, that's one of the main things that I also want to make sure people understand, is that you don't have to have my lifestyle. You don't have to have Katie's lifestyle. You can have your own lifestyle and still achieve your goals and feel really great.
Yeah. And I will add to that as well, because my husband with his job travels a lot. And so at lunches, he has found, as we've focused more on and just trying not to snack, how small like a serving you get of protein
At most restaurants.
at restaurants. So we've talked, I was like, honey, order double protein. This is the only way to really feel full, because, it is one of the, as I think you've stated before, like the most really expensive component for restaurants to put on your plate. So
so they're going to give you a small portion and then give you a huge thing of rice to go along with it, so that it feels like this really big meal. There's a lot of, especially people who live in maybe like a little bit more of city situations, there's a lot of great, like not buffet style, but kind of like Chipotle. I don't know what you would call that, like cafeteria style, I guess.
Yeah.
Whichever thing you want and how much of each thing you want. Kava, Chipotle. I know there's a couple that I'm not thinking off the top of my head, but a lot of great restaurants where you can pick, like, can I have double serving of that? And can I have like this? You can leave off that, and you just go down the line and you're picking each component of what you want anyway. So it doesn't have to feel like you are being very picky, but you actually are just part of the process of what it is to order food there.
Yeah.
Speaking of rice, I saw one question. Hi, Autumn and Katie. Hello. I was wondering what your thoughts on eating a serving of regular brown rice, not as part of a treat meal. Cauliflower rice just isn't my jam. So here's the thing about rice. It is really blood glucose spiking. Surprisingly so. It's like very, very blood glucose spiking, very, very insulin spiking. Even brown rice is really up there more than you would think. It's actually pretty similar to just regular rice. So it just depends on your own body's ability to break down carbohydrates and how carbohydrate sensitive you are. So I know, especially if you are on a weight loss journey, if you found that, having rice within your meal is not something that has been supportive of your weight loss journey in the past, or if you've taken my carb sensitivity quiz and you found that maybe you are carb sensitive, then just regular rice probably isn't going to be something that supports your goals right now. That's the other thing that I would love to help you guys understand as well, is that our bodies change over time in a lot of different ways. If you become more active, like let's say you've achieved your weight loss goal and now you have these higher activity level goals and you are doing more strength training, you can be a lot more flexible with these various starches because your body has so much muscle mass that's absorbing that excess glucose. Whereas if you have a weight loss goal, if you aren't as active, your body will process carbohydrates in a different way. And we just need to see where your body's at right now, what your goals are, and work with where your body is at that moment. Not necessarily, it doesn't have to be this way forever. It's just working with where your body's at right now. So if you haven't seen that quiz, definitely check out my carb sensitivity quiz. That might be a good one for you to just see on if it'll work for you. If you just go to my website, autumn, like ELLE, nutrition.com, I have a blog section and then there's a quiz section within the blogs. So normally I would have that linked underneath this video, but I didn't think that this was going to come up. Actually, I don't know why. That's an obvious question. But yeah, you can just check it out there. Just go to autumnlnutrition.com, go to the blog section, and then click the quizzes category. And in the quiz section, there's only 4 on there, so you'll be able to find the carb sensitivity one pretty easily.
And I can also actually vouch on what you are saying with sometimes our bodies change. So in the very beginning, when I started my journey, grains really could not be a part for me to achieve my weight loss goal. But now that I no longer kind of have a weight loss goal, I'm starting to learn my carbohydrate sensitivity, which is, it's not super easy. You have to be willing to allow the fluctuations in your body to change to kind of learn it. But now I've learned like, 2 or 3 times a week, I love einkorn sourdough, which is grain based. But I have learned like half to a slice with dinner a couple times a week, I'm okay. And that might, in this situation, be the same with rice. But you've got to really learn how much quantity, how often, and in the beginning, it may be not at all, which was, kind of what you're saying. It really did not suit my goals weight loss.
Yeah. So it's kind of just always checking up with your body and seeing what your goals are now and adjusting. That's actually the level up guide, the whole description of it. It's helping you to see the different types of protocols and how you change those protocols dependent on where your goals have shifted to. I remember, I think it was you, Katie, one time where you said like, "Oh, there's no way I'm going to use all these different ones."
Yeah,
like,
I did. And now I've pretty much used them all.
Yeah, exactly. So it's good to, maybe weight loss is your goal right now, but maybe having some degree of hormone balance is your goal in the future. And those can all happen simultaneously too, but also just having different focuses depending on where your body's at right now is also important as well. I see Alexis, hello, has a question. Can we dive into IF on vacation, large time differences? So it kind of depends on if you've already used intermittent fasting in the past. Like regardless of if I'm on vacation or not, I still stick with intermittent fasting because it makes me feel really good. So I don't wake up and immediately eat. I kind of try and just like how you try and set your body to that time zone, that's what I do with my eating schedule as well. So like if you are traveling all the way to Sweden, for example, just popped in my head because that's like a beautiful, amazing place. But if you're traveling all the way to Sweden, that's a huge time difference. You would like the recommendation for how to set your sleep is to stay awake during those waking hours and then, sleep when it's dark so that you're able to just adjust to that time difference. That's what I personally do from an eating perspective as well. I try and adjust it to what my eating pattern will be based on essentially the sunlight. Like you can even view it like that. So the sunlight time, will be different in terms of specifically when you're eating compared to where you are back home. But I don't know if that really makes sense, but trying to adjust it, like if you've been using intermittent fasting in the past and you're comfortable with it and you feel really good with it and you want to maintain it, trying to then adjust it to the time zone, it might be a little off on the first day, but trying to get it as close as possible to the time zone that you're currently in. But if this is I know it's not for Alexis, but if this is your very first time using intermittent fasting, I wouldn't necessarily say, start intermittent fasting, start your whole wellness journey when you're on vacation. Like that doesn't really make sense. You don't have a lot of time to really dedicate a lot of, thought and intention to your meals when you're on vacation. That might not even necessarily be the thing you want to do when you're on vacation. Maybe you can start reading on vacation, like reading the programs or reading into how you actually apply it. And then when you get back and you can actually plan for this with your normal work life, then applying it. But I wouldn't recommend starting any type of journey when you're on vacation. What do you think, Katie?
100% would not. but my when I go on vacation, and I've traveled to Europe, so to build on what you say, like I actually in 2019 was in Italy, and I was intermittent fasting, and I kind of followed same guidance. Like I stayed up all day because I had arrived in the morning, which was technically my evening.
Yeah.
But that first day, I just to to align my circadian rhythm with the daytime shift of where I was at in Italy, I just ate when I was hungry and kind of just was intuitive that first day. And then so that I could go to sleep as, at a normal time on Italian hours. And then that next day, it was kind of like I just let my body tell me when I was hungry. And where I'd eaten actually, in typically like my evening time zone, where I should have been sleeping, if that makes sense. Like I really didn't have a huge appetite the next day. So it was actually pretty easy for me to kind of get back into my rhythm,
Right. Right. The first day is always like a little awkward for everyone.
It is.
Because you've been traveling and you are having to quickly adjust to a new time zone. But I found for myself personally with both sleep and food, just trying to get past that first day and shift into that, especially if you're there for like longer than a week, where you really have to be adjusted to that time zone, it'll make your whole experience a lot better because you are really quickly jumped into that time zone and being able to be part of that. Alexa says double up. It's shocking. She's talking about the protein. It is shocking when you actually eat enough protein, enough of the right types of protein. Okay. Dana, I am not feeling as full with the new smoothies. Not sure why. So what I would do whenever, with any type of satiety factor, like I mentioned, it can totally change over time. Especially if you have lost weight in the past, you have to consider the fact that your body has less body fat to be pulling from. So this is part of weight loss maintenance as well. It may be counterintuitive to what a lot of people think, but you actually have to slightly increase your intake, especially from energy sources. So we've talked a lot about protein, which is the main satiety factor that needs to be nailed down and dialed in for your body. But then there's the energy factors, which fat and carbs are the two main energy sources from food. So adding in an extra serving of fat, for example, like adding in an extra tablespoon to the smoothie, if this is the case for you, can help with that satiety factor where you no longer have as much body fat to be pulling from. Now you can be getting a little bit more from your food to help balance that out. Or maybe you just simply haven't adjusted it to your protein needs. So adding in an extra half serving of protein powder or half cup of Greek yogurt or whatever it might be to get that protein needs up can also help the satiety. Knowing what causes hunger is a huge tool because that will help you to determine what it is that you need to add. If you're hungry, if you're not fully satisfied, you're missing one of two things, protein or fat. Those are the two main things that are needed to feel satisfied. I always recommend first trying to play around with the protein because that is the number one most important satiety factor, and then the fat. So you can go back to the program, recalculate your protein needs, take a look at what the different protein options are that are really considered complete. Make sure that you're getting those proteins from complete sources. If you're using the programs, then obviously you are getting the complete sources, but maybe add on a little bit more dependent on what your calculated needs are. And then you can always play around with the fat and see if it's the fat that needs to be adjusted. Any note on that? Or just me rambling?
I was going to say, no, I agree. And sometimes I've noticed for myself, if I, particularly in the evenings, add a starchy carbohydrate, even if it's a vegetable starchy carb, I personally can sometimes wake up hungrier the next day.
Absolutely.
So that's something else to keep in mind too.
Yeah, that's so true. Catherine, hi, Catherine. Hi, Autumn. Any update on when you're launching your protein powder? I know I keep saying very soon, but actually very, very soon. So make sure if you guys haven't already subscribed to my email newsletter, because that's where, and the Facebook group, being part of the Facebook group, those are the two areas that you'll find out everything first, whether it be a challenge or a new product launch, like with the protein powder. I can't wait. It's coming out very, very, very soon. So make sure you sign up to that. I think I also have the newsletter link down description below. Also the Facebook group, you guys know where that is too. So just make sure. Yes, I know, Catherine. Yes. If you guys aren't like aware of this whole journey, it has been a journey with the protein powder because I wanted to create something. This is kind of like a side tangent, but since we're talking about protein, I wanted to create a really reliable source of protein where it actually has zero sugar, but doesn't load up with stevia. So I feel like a lot of the zero sugar protein powders load up with stevia or do like a combination of stevia and monk fruit, which stevia tends to be a little it just has that weird aftertaste. Like, I don't know personally. And what I've seen from a lot of people, Steve, when I did a poll, I actually polled the audience from you guys as well, like on Instagram and Facebook. I think it was about 60% of you was like, please no stevia. And I agree with that. I'm not a big fan. So I wanted to create one that was 0 sugar, but that didn't have stevia, that was pasture raised, that's, actually fits the goals that you guys are looking for. That's a high diaz protein, that's also low lactose. So like, it's been a huge journey, literally created it in my kitchen right here, which I also didn't realize not too many people do. Like, it took a long time to find somebody who would work with me where I was actually the one creating it rather than like their in-house flavorist people. I wanted to make sure I was part of the journey step by step and actually literally creating it for you guys with your direct feedback. Like I mentioned, I'm so excited for this because it has been such a journey and it's such a unique product that I've not seen anywhere on the market. And I love it. I've been able to use it this whole time. And I'm just excited for you guys to have it. So make sure that you are subscribed to the email newsletter down in the description below. Also Instagram, Facebook, it'll be announced everywhere. But yeah, very, very excited. It's coming soon. Yes. Monica, yes, it's going to be launched very soon. Make sure you're subscribed. Same. Super excited for you guys to have it. Thank you, Catherine. Okay, I saw a question actually by Monica. Okay. I love fruits and I'm having a hard time deciding if they are, quote, safe to eat, meaning they will not spike the blood insulin. Which fruits do you recommend are best to eat during an eating window for IF? So this also depends on your carbohydrate sensitivity. Some people can have a lot more flexibility with the amounts of fruits as well as the type of fruit if they are less carb sensitive, because it is still a much better option than just having like a candy bar or sugar sweetened drink or even fruit juice. So first, understanding what your carb sensitivity is. Make sure you check out that blog post with the quiz on my website, automelnutrition.com. Go to the blog, click the carb sensitivity quiz, and it'll help you determine like your carb sensitivity level. But also knowing like the different degrees of how much sugar is in each fruit, like pretty much all the berries, regardless of how carb sensitive you are, that's pretty much a really easy go-to option where it's so low in sugar and also has a really high level of fiber. So the impact on blood sugar levels is really minimum. So raspberries, blackberries, strawberries, blueberries are going to have a little bit more sugar, but if you aren't super carb sensitive, it's still not, it's negligible. But if you are carb sensitive, then you'd want to just make sure you watch the amounts. Some of the ones that are very common that can be tricky for some people is like banana or mango or papaya.
Pineapple.
Yeah, pineapple. So pineapple is one that's like kind of a moderate one where, it's not like mango, where mango is so high in sugar that you really need to make sure you're having smaller amount. Like in the new meal plan, we do have a mango smoothie, but it uses a small amount of mango so that you aren't getting a ton of sugar. So I would first say understand your carb sensitivity and what is actually going to work best for your body. Maybe you can tolerate some of those higher sugar fruits and it's perfectly fine, maybe not. So understand that, take that quiz. And second of all, understand the spectrum of fruits. So actually in the various programs, especially the 21-day program and the level up guide.
Yeah, page 22 of the level up guide. I know. I was like, I know you've got this somewhere. Yeah. Got a whole page of it.
Yeah, it has the 3 categories where it's like low sugar, medium, high sugar. That's a really good resource just to understand like, okay, these are pretty much for anyone going to be a good option. These are ones that maybe you want to time around a workout, having them after you've had a harder workout. These ones maybe, depending on your carb sensitivity level, aren't ones that are going to be best for you right now. So I would just recommend doing that. First, checking out your carb sensitivity, take that quiz, then making sure you have an understanding of the low, medium, and high sugar fruits. Okay, let's answer like 1 or 2 more questions. Vanessa, hi, just got here. Welcome. So love the program, but having a problem with my carbs. Just realized I'm carb sensitive. Help. Yeah. So also in the programs, you'll see that they have a little key. I don't have it up right now, but I created this so that you guys could also adjust each recipe to your individual needs. So there's a key that's related to different protocols within the Level Up Guide. If you are really carb sensitive, then you'll obviously be wanting to follow the advanced weight loss strategies protocol. That's like the little broccoli emoji. And it tells you like, okay, make these swaps to this recipe to better fit your needs. That is where I'd recommend that you just take a look at the recipes and adjust them based on how your body is right now. So if you find that you're really carb sensitive, look for that little broccoli emoji. It's in all the programs right now, except for the Thriving Cookbook. I believe is the only one that doesn't have it. But all the programs have the little broccoli emoji where you can make adjustments if you are more carb sensitive. And even in the latest 6-week summer meal plan, I made additional recommendations because I saw that there were so many people who, struggle with the carb sensitivity as well, where it's like an additional, recommendation on how you can make the recipes more tailored to your goals. Okay. Let's do a couple. Broccoli gang, Catherine. Yes. All right. Allie, how do I make the brekkie bowl more filling? I've already added in hemp hearts, flaxseed, cacao, strawberries, and unsweetened coconut shreds all at once even. So all of those are mostly going to be primarily fat sources. Especially, hemp hearts do have a little bit of protein, but it's not as much as if you were to have like Greek yogurt or protein powder in there. So I would experiment with stirring in either Greek yogurt or protein powder. If you are plant-based and so you can't do Greek yogurt, then go with a protein powder option and just make sure you do a full serving of protein powder in there. So at least 20 grams, really ideally more, but it can get, for especially the plant-based proteins, a little chalky if you add more than one full serving of protein. So I would recommend doing the 1 serving of protein powder stirred in there or using Greek yogurt or both. I personally like to do that with the chia brekkie bowls, doing about like a half or 3/4 cup Greek yogurt and then doing about a half to 3/4 serving of protein powder. It makes it like, so you get the nice creaminess from the Greek yogurt, but then you also get the like vanilla flavor from the protein powder, all without the sugar as well. So just play around with the protein because see, you have all the fat down, which is great, but you also need the protein there too. Okay. I think that's going to cover it for today. We've gone over a lot. This is a long live stream.
Yeah.
But if you guys, like I mentioned, this is week 2 of the summer intermittent fasting challenge. If you want to join in, it's definitely not too late. We still have 5 or like 4.5 weeks going on. A lot of great meals, a lot of great tips and strategies to help tailor to your goals, your needs, your food preferences. So make sure if you want to join in, check out the link down in the description below. I have the blog post for how I actually joined the challenge. I have the 6-week summer meal plan linked down below as well. I know some people are unsure on how you actually click like the description. You just click like when you scroll down. I should do this actually one time and show. There's like a little arrow right below the video that shows you like show more for the description. And that's where you can see all the links that I'm referring to. But you can also find it on my blog at autumnlnutrition.com, just autumn, E-L-L-E, nutrition.com. Then go to the blog tab and you'll be able to find the blog post for the challenge there as well. But otherwise, next week, we will be having another live stream on Monday this time. So usual time, 9 a.m. PST. Today was a little off because of the holiday over the weekend. But I wanted to just thank Katy for all of her tips. That was really helpful. And I think it's just really great for us to hear from other people within the community, like what has worked for them and these tips that have worked for their specific lifestyle. So thank you, Katy, so much for sharing all this.
Yeah, thanks for having me and for everyone that has stayed with us this long on the chat. I didn't mean to get too chatty, but I love being a part of the community. So thanks for letting me be here.
Yeah, well, thank you guys. And I'll see you for the week 3 live stream next Monday at 9 a.m. PST. Take a look out for that link. Otherwise, remember, check out the link for how to join the challenge and we'll see you guys soon.